Sir, the other question, you were saying other attorney generals from around the country. What exactly is the settlement? It's with these 5 banks?
The settlement is between the settling states, which, like I said, I believe that there are 49 states that are settling. We're still working a little bit on everybody that's going to sign the settlement, and the 5 major lenders and servicers, and we have that on the board here. Bank of America, Citibank, J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Ally are all signatories to the settlement. There is the opportunity for other servicing agencies to settle yet, and so there may be others that will join. But it's my understanding that of privately held mortgages that these 5 companies have about 65% of the market.
So by settling, what did they agree? They did something wrong? Here's some money. I mean, what?
Essentially, there was a lawsuit by the states in federal court claiming that there were that the banks had committed wrongful acts in servicing mortgages. The most notable was robo-signing. This all started with the robo-signing investigations by the states. The banks have basically in this settlement agreed that there were a variety of servicing issues for which they could be sued, and that in order to settle that lawsuit, they agreed to this payment, which amounts to about $25 billion on a national basis, changes in the way that they do servicing. They've agreed to monitoring by the attorneys general for the next 3 years, so we'll have a national monitor in place that will monitor to make sure the changes are made. They have agreed to change their practices with regard to how they negotiate with people that are in default on their mortgages, so that they give them the opportunity to renegotiate their loans to potentially either reduce the principal or reduce the interest rates. They have agreed to make cash payments to the states, some of which are cash payments for penalties and others which are cash payments. I think New Mexico's payment is going to be about $12 million. And that money we will be using to provide services to people that are either in default in their mortgages now or might be in the future, but we intend to develop potentially a hotline so that people will be able to call in and get information. We are working with a couple of senators right now. I think Senator Fishman has a bill that would provide for a mediation program for people that are being foreclosed on, and we believe that some of this money might be able to be used to generate a statewide mediation program. I think some of the money will be used by us to provide other agencies around the state, which we're already doing actually, to provide consulting services for people that are in mortgages. United South Broadway we have a contract with right now to provide loan modification assistance is the word I was looking for, and counseling to people that are in foreclosure so that they know what all of their legal rights are, and hopefully might be able to avoid foreclosure. Frankly, we think that all of these things will help the entire system. One of the things that I think is really important about this settlement, this is the beginning of the end of the mortgage crisis from my perspective, in that the banks have agreed that they're not going to do a lot of these bad acts that they were doing previously with regard to servicing, and I think that now that everybody understands what the playing field is going to be, that you'll see the process moving forward, so that people can start to get mortgages again, so that people who are delinquent on their mortgages have a pathway out, so that they can continue to keep their houses, and so that we won't have the same kinds of servicing issues in the future that we have now. So back to your question about who benefits from this, we think that everybody will benefit from this that is a homeowner, because we are fundamentally changing the way that banks will be servicing mortgages.
Sir, could you give a quick recap on what exactly robo-signing is, and then could you explain this thing right here that says no immunity granted and criminal prosecution is not prevented? Like, who are you actually talking about?
Yeah. Well, the robo-signing was actually the process whereby when banks were foreclosing, when there were a lot of foreclosures, the servicing agents were not truthfully reviewing all of the files, and they were basically signing affidavits that said that they had reviewed the files and that everything in them was true and correct. And the attorneys general, through our investigation, determined that sometimes there was one person that was signing hundreds or thousands of documents in a time period where they could have only really realistically reviewed 50 or 60 documents. And so we know that there were occasions where there was a certification that the file had been reviewed and we knew that it hadn't been. So those are the kinds of things that banks were doing. So it wouldn't have necessarily meant that the person wasn't appropriate to be foreclosed on. It's just that the banks were shortcutting the process in order to process all of these foreclosures during the peak of the foreclosure crisis. And so those kinds of processes are the ones that we're dealing with. And once again, in any event where the banks were fraudulently induced a mortgage, or if they produced false documents, or any of those kinds of things that are criminal acts that would have caused somebody to lose their house because of that criminal act, there's still the opportunity for the states to bring criminal actions against any of the bankers that did that. And the other thing that should be clear here is that none of this release absolves any of the issues that revolve around securitization of mortgages. And so the process whereby banks put together packages of mortgages and sold them as securities, and they did that wrongfully. There are still suits that are going on in the states right now on those securitization issues, and this settlement does not involve any of those securitization cases.
Conversely, what would have happened if you had not signed New Mexico onto this agreement? What would have happened here?
Sure. Well, one of the issues for us, and why it was important for us to sign off on this, is that the resources that New Mexico would have to bring a lawsuit against the 5 major banks, we believe that they would have been able to keep us in litigation for years and years and years, potentially 5 years, 10 years. And this settlement gives relief right now to homeowners that are hurting right now, and gives us a dollar amount that we think would not be something that we would be able to individually reach in lawsuits against these individual institutions. The other thing that it really does for us is that this, for the first time, gives the attorneys general the right to oversee the action of national banks. Previously, the banks have always made an argument that the attorneys general did not have any jurisdiction in dealing with national banking issues. And in this case, they've agreed to have this monitor that will oversee the settlement and their actions, and give the attorneys general the right to pursue actions if they don't complete everything that they've agreed to do in the settlement.
How soon could these changes take place?
Well, I think that we all believe that it'll be about 60 days before things really start to happen. I think that we don't know exactly when the cash payments will be available, but it's one of our priorities to make sure that happens. So we have to get a settlement administrator in place and then send the notices out. But I would guess that somewhere between 60 days and 120 days for people to start getting notices that they have benefits that they can receive under that part of the settlement. I don't think that we know yet when the state will get the money that's available to us, but we're asking the Senate today for the authority to spend $3.5 million in the next fiscal year to do those projects that I was talking to you about that will help homeowners to be wiser about what their options are under foreclosures. And I think that the writing down of loans and such can start happening as soon as the banks start looking at mortgages that are underwater, that are at risk, and because they can start getting they have to get credit. They've agreed that they will give credit for a certain amount of money. In New Mexico, that amount is I have the number here, $63 million basically in homeowner relief through loan modifications, principal reduction, and other kinds of relief. And so I think that will start to occur now, but that will occur over the course of 3 years.
How many New Mexicans are you talking about that you think are affected?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have a number. Thousands, probably.
We don't have a number at this point. We're still working on getting that information put together.
So is this a good deal for the states? Good deal for the banks? I mean, who really won here?
Sure. Well, in a good settlement, everybody wins, and so we think that everybody does well here. We think that homeowners that are at risk right now are significant beneficiaries of this. We think that the banking industry as a whole. Bankers like to have certainty in what they're going to be doing over the next 2 or 3 years, and so even though they're paying a huge sum of money here to settle this, it gives them some certainty as to what their liabilities are going to be, and so that's why I think that that people who want to get mortgages in the future will have an easier time getting mortgages in the future because of this settlement. And so it certainly benefits the attorneys general because it gives us the authority to oversee these and the authority to help consumers in the state of New Mexico with the money that we get. So I think everybody benefits from it.
Do you think some folks that maybe would have qualified for mortgage years ago might not qualify now with the changes?
You know, I think that people that would have qualified years ago are not being able to qualify right now before this settlement because of the restrictions that everybody has had with regard to new mortgages. And so it's certainly my hope that this will increase the ability of your average person to get a mortgage, because once again, I think that that these mortgage lenders will know what their liabilities are. They'll know what they're going to be required to do in servicing and foreclosures. And so I hope that doing away with that uncertainty will make it easier for everybody to get a mortgage.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I think we